let's talk more about depression a little bit, because I know that's another big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I think about depression, I feel like sometimes people can get into a place where they think they're not able to get out of it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think of like famous, like the lead singer to Soundgarden, like Chris Cornell, who ended up committing suicide. Right. Like, in your experience, is like people are able to get out of it, right? It's temporary. There are fixes.
Absolutely. I think the hard part, if we're talking about suicide for a minute, is that if somebody really has it in their mind that they've gotten to that point where they feel like there's no way out, that they completely feel like hopeless, and that they're just in so much pain that not being alive anymore would be the best option for them, it's very hard to stop someone, because, most of the time they will not talk about it. They won't talk about the fact that they're at that point. You might know that they're depressed and struggling. So suicide is a really, really tricky, horrible thing, because a lot of times people have made up their mind and they're going to go through with it. Now, a suicidal gesture is a little bit different. And that's basically someone saying, hey, I'm in pain. See me, help me. They might, attempt, but a lot of times I think they're not 100% sure they want to go through with it. They're kind of on the fence, and that's why, you'll see them in an overdose in a hospital. They might have really, like, maybe 75% wanted to die, but maybe there was 25% that was like, I'm just in a lot of pain, but I still kind of want to live. So, in answer to your question, I think that depression is very treatable. What's nice about the time that we live in now is there's so many different modalities. Like I said, there's obviously the traditional, psychopharm, there's therapy, there's, things like, depending on the degree and the severity of depression, there's things like acupuncture and transmagnetic cranial, stuff. And there's so many different things. I don't do that, by the way, but that people should know, hey, all I have to do is just start the process. Just meet with somebody and let me see what my options are. Let me try to get better.
Yeah, I think as soon as they're recognizing, and I guess they need to recognize that whatever it is they're going through, if they're not getting out of bed or if things are bothering them so much, that is some depression, and they need to seek help. They got to get past the stigma and reach out, whether it's talking to a family member and sharing about it and saying, I need some help, because some family and friends are going to be there to support you and help you and lift you up, because sometimes it's not easy to do it on your own.
It's not. And you also, I think, are dealing with this concept of, I'm just really stressed. I'm not that, it's not really depression or clinical depression. I can get out of this. Yeah. But if a month, 2 months, 3 months is going by and you're struggling, at home, at work, and you're avoiding people, you are, just not really doing what you need to do for yourself, it's a big sign that there's something really wrong. It's not just like stress. Stress is something that you can manage and work with, I think, on a daily basis. When you're depressed, it's kind of like your life stops. Yeah. So that's kind of an important distinction.
I had a trial last year and I won a big verdict. It was a it was a career case, biggest win. Amazing. I couldn't have done a better job, and the celebration afterwards was so incredible. And then I crashed, and this adrenaline dump, and I went into a depression for probably had to be at least a week, 2 weeks, and I didn't it's like, and that feeling is so bad. It's so tough. Yeah. You start worrying about maybe I did something wrong, and now I'm gonna ruin the appeal is gonna be ruined. The case is gonna get reversed. These things that start to run in your mind can really take you down. Right. But but I guess people need to know it's gonna pass.
It is gonna pass.
And if it's not passing, get to somebody. What are some of the modalities you see that work the best for people suffering from depression?
Yeah. Again, it really kind of depends on the severity. So if somebody comes to me really, really depressed, and say they've never been on an SSRI, which, is the main sort of gold standard treatment for depression and anxiety, the common things that you hear about, Zoloft, Prozac, all of that, I'll probably start them on that. But I would also, with that, say that as you start feeling more energy and start feeling like you have a little more spring in your step, I want you to start walking. I want you to stop eating processed food. I want you to take time to, make a phone call to a friend every day, as they start. And that's really the way that people should understand that medication should be integrated. It's not just to take a pill to take a pill. It's, I'm taking this so I can start to do the good things for myself again. So I really, if they're not somebody who's taken care of themselves before, I'm going to help them do that. That's what I feel is so important about my role.
What are the feelings that people report to you, right? They avoided, they have this depression. They've tried to do it on their own. They've avoided taking a medication prescribed by a professional.
Right.
Now they say, okay, I'm going to take this prescription, whether it's Prozac or Zoloft or whatever other medication, Wellbutrin. What are the feelings that they start to report to you that you generally see, like if when it's working, and how often does it work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say, just to throw out a rough number, the issue that we're dealing with as psychiatrists is that maybe 40 to 60% of antidepressants work, which isn't great when you think about that, the number of people. So
but it's worth the try, right?
Of course.
What I mean? 40
Absolutely.
to 60, you got a 50-50 shot of this thing can change your life.
Absolutely. So no-brainer to try it. And what people tell me is, for example, they start to see color again. I know that sounds weird, but like things were looking like just their literal like vision was like everything looked a little gray. And they start to like the color starts to come back in their life.
That's fascinating. That's like bringing chills,
Right? I know. It's very intense. And they just start to feel like they have the energy again, the energy to get out of bed, the energy to put in a full day at work and not try to get home early or, sort of zone out. The energy to listen to their kids or their spouse, to like really be present. They're not like off, like kind of half listening, not really there. So really, I think the energy is what starts to come back, and the motivation to kind of do their day, to try to implement some healthier habits, whether it's walking or actually going to the gym. Like I love getting people into weightlifting, for example. So good for their brain, so obviously great for the body. And you'd be surprised, like people who have never done it before, they're like, oh my God, like why have I never done this before? Yeah. Or just eating better, just like throwing out like bottled salad dressings. And I tell people how to make an easy, healthy salad. I mean, it's like little things that they're able to start doing, and they feel so much better.